Do not fear, Saf is here, and this is Saf Buxy from Saf Surgery, Spirituality Gone Wild. And let me just turn my phone off. Um, yeah, thank you for joining me this week. And today we have a very special guest, a guest that we had last week, but there was a few, how do I say, interruptions and stuff like that. So we've invited her back on to the show today, so we could finish some kind of unfinished business, if you like. So I welcome Mehreen Mia Cassimjee. She's all the way from South Africa. She's an academic, having studied fields in law, psychology, and financial forensics, and is still a lifelong learner. Her credentials are just absolutely incredible. She's the CEO and founder of the M.E.A company, which stands for Motivate, Empower, and Advance. You can see it scrolling at the bottom of our broadcast today. She's a co-founder and director of NGO Helping Hands Social Society. She's the director of another NGO, Muslim Relief Alliance. She's a master at Neuro-Linguistic programming. She's a practitioner in that field. She's an accredited life coach for adults and children. I mean, the list just goes on. She's involved in CBT, energy psychology, motivational, inspirational speaker. And she's recently won another award. I mean, she's going to tell us about it, but she is just one incredible human being. And I just feel so grateful that I've got another chance to have Mehreen here with us today. So I hope you enjoyed the show, and I hope we have less interruptions technology-wise than we did last week. So, Mehreen, I know you're in the green room. Please come and join us. Hey,
Hello.
how are you?
Hello.
You okay?
Very well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. There's a bit of an echo in the background. Is anything on in the background? Any of your
Can I
mobile on or anything? No?
give me a minute? Give me a second.
I will do. I will do. Really determined to get this one right today.
That's better.
I think it's better. Yeah, I think it's better. Oh, it's a lot better. So hi,
Yay.
welcome.
Hello.
It's very rarely where I have the same guest on 2 weeks in a row, but I think we've got a bit of unfinished business, really,
Yeah,
because
of course.
your message last week was just of what we heard was just absolutely unbelievable, and the response we've had from people has just been incredible, absolutely incredible. So, hence
Oh,
I said, you know what, rather than waiting. Um, few months. Let's get you on straight away. I've got a couple of messages already. Last week, the internet blew up. Welcome back, Mehreen. And that's from Steve Webber, who's part of the Spirituality Gone Wild family, which is our main platform here today. Um, and he's also saying, looking good with my new fresh haircut. I'm glad you've noticed, Steve. Thank you for that. But Mehreen, I mean, we covered so many topics yesterday in the last week in the short period of time that we had. We spoke about your academia. We could go through it very quickly for people who weren't here last week, who didn't tune in. So if you don't mind, again, just very briefly. Obviously, you mentioned your story, but and we heard your story, but you do have a vast range of academia, and you do a lot of community work and a lot of humanitarian work. I mean, firstly, how do you get it all in? How do you do all this? And who are you? Who are you as a person? Tell us.
well, I think the first thing I am is a daughter. And then I'm a wife, and then I'm a mother. So those are the roles I encompass, and that kind of motivates me to be anything else I need to be. But a lot of me started off when I was growing up, and I think I did touch on this last week on my growing up with my grandfather and what we would do together. And little did I realize that what I would do with him and what I would do when I used to go to Cape Town on holiday here in South Africa, where I would go with a lady who was very close to us as a family friend. And we would go and we'd speak to women and children. I was like 14 at the time. All of those things would actually become what I am today. I never knew that because when I was a matric and finishing off and wanting to get into university, it was all about the societal norm of what you need to be as a profession. You need to be either a lawyer, or you need to be a doctor, or you need to be something that's got this thing that makes everybody proud. And so I did all of these different things, but in each of them, there was never so much of a self-satisfaction. There was never so much of, I have this passion for what I'm doing. I'm doing it because I need to get something done. And then, of course, I did touch on my personal experience of the accident that I had, and then my laid up in and being crippled for quite a while, and what my experience was back then. And it was that was the turning point for me. And I think my journey to finding the true me and the authentic me started off on that bed as a cripple. And when I made the choice to actually decide that those three gifts given to me are what I need to balance myself. When I made that choice, when I just had the intention within me, just the intention alone is what brought me to the surface of where I need to start again. So I don't feel like there's anything I might have done academically that was to waste. I don't believe that at all. I think everything was meant to have happened because I use everything that I've gained thus far in everything that I do today. So if I have to sit in front of somebody who needs a bit of advice in any field, I'm able to just provide that. Because one of my philosophies in life is knowledge is everything. And my basis of gaining as much of the knowledge that I have gained thus far is for me first, because the validity of the certificate that I can have plenty, but the actual worth of that certificate is based on what I give off from the certificate to help somebody else, and that's for me what's key. So when I, for example, have to go out to do a workshop or I have to go and talk to somebody, I'm not relaying just what I found in a textbook or what I heard or what I saw in stats. I'm talking about what I've experienced. I'm talking about what I know works. And that for me is the key to actually make that difference for other people. So that's kind of a summary of Mehreen to date. I'm not sure if you want me to touch on the three gifts again, or
I
whether
do,
we
yeah,
still.
please. No, please do, because we've it's like the first part's done, but this is the part. This is the part that people need to hear, because hopefully it'll be obviously trouble-free session that we're going to have today. I pray, but you know what? It's, as you said last week, this is the way it was meant to be, and I've got you back immediately. So thank you for coming back immediately.
Yeah.
I had to rejiggle a few guests, but I wanted you. It was so important because of what happened last week, and what you were saying, and the response that we got with all that going on in the background was so overwhelming and so endearing that it was a no-brainer to have you back this week, and it really is unfinished business. So please talk about the three.
Okay, so what happened with me was I was kind of this rebellious somebody who wanted to explore me. And it wasn't about who would tell me no. I think every one of us has that streak at some point as we grow up. And then you feel like I'm giving too much to everybody. And I think I need to do what I want for myself. And that sometimes leads you to fall. But you're not willing to listen to anybody until you actually fall. So that was kind of me. And then the rebellious streak kind of cost me a little bit. And when I lay there after my accident and I had the operation done, it took quite a while because they had triple fusion done on me. And then I was told I'm never going to walk again. The op was successful, but the it might not work because they tried everything. And here I am lying there at the age of 22, and I'm thinking, I've just done so many things to try and make something of me. Am I going to lie like this forever? I don't know what's going to happen. So everything with me just went a little bit haywire mentally. And then you lie there and there's nothing else you can do but just think. There's just your mind that works continuously. So I had a day when the surgeon came in, and he was, and of course, the neurosurgeon will walk in, and so does the physiotherapist every morning. And this is after a while. So they get so used to rubbing the pens on your feet to see if there's any movement at all because your limbs have given up and there's nothing there. Let me just go back to 2 days prior to that happening with the pen. 2 days prior to that, I had my mom who was working, and she had a call from my spiritual guide to say, I need for you to go and I want to speak to Mehreen. So my mom said to him that I can't because they have security at the gate and they won't let me into high care because they're very, very strict about that, especially with a cell phone. So he said, I know, but I'm not asking you, I'm telling you, I need to speak to her. So be that as it may, whatever happened, happened, and she eventually got to me, and she put the phone to my ear. And obviously, with the rebelliousness in me, I kind of lacked being his disciple, so to speak. So I wasn't really fulfilling what I was supposed to be doing every day, or even doing good by my parents, etc., etc. So when she just put the phone to my ear and I heard the voice, it's like a naughty child who suddenly hears the reprimanding voice, you know. So I heard him, and I thought, oh gosh, okay, here it comes. But it wasn't as bad because all he said to me was, "How are you?" And I said how I felt. And then he asked me a very pertinent question. And he said, "So what did they say?" So I said, "They said that I won't probably not walk again. And they said this and they said that and they said this and they said that." And he says, "Okay, now tell me that again." So I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "Tell me that again. Who said that?" So I said, "They said that." He said, "Okay, so what do you say about what they said?" And I said to him, "What do you mean?" He says, "Exactly. I want you to just think about that. They telling you these things, but I need for you to do some soul searching, and I know you can. I don't even have to give you the answer here." That was the end of the discussion. So obviously we had to leave because she was an accountant. So she left, and there's brainwaves now all over the place. Like, what does he mean? What is he talking about? That's the crux for me of where I turned everything around, because I realized that they outside of me, yes, they're medicals, and yes, everything was in tune with what they were saying, and the reports were there, and everything was there. But surely there's something about me. And the lesson for me was the three gifts. And the three gifts were what everyone has these three gifts that are given to you. And those are when you're born into this world, you're given these three gifts. You're given the gift of faith. So whichever faith you're born into, that's your faith. That's your spirituality, so your spiritual self. Then you're born into your family. That's a God-given gift to you as well. So you're born into this family. And then the third gift that's given to you when you're born is your body, your physical self. And you need these three gifts to maintain your balance, to be who you need to be. And so when you hit this rebellious streak of I don't care about anybody anymore, you start to feel like I'm losing two of the gifts. So I lost two of them. By being as rebellious as I was and doing whatever I had done, I kind of lost on the spiritual one. And then I took away my own family one. So and for me, I really, really believe this. I believe that my higher being was saying to me, I gave you these three gifts because I knew they were gifts you need. You decided to play my role in your life and you took away the two. So here's what I'm going to do with you. I'm going to take half of the third one. But if you decide and you make the right choices, I'll give you all three back. And just my alone was, you know what? I can get this. I just need to get the balance. I need to find me and I need to do what's right. So I made the intention. So it passed on 2 days, and the third day I come back now to the pen story. Is when the surgeons walk in, and they're used to that at 5 in the morning. And he walked in and he pulls this pen about, at the bottom of my foot, and I kicked it. And I'll never ever forget the surgeon's face. And he called for the nurse. And did you see that? And he does it over, and I said to him, "Can you please stop that? It's actually very irritating." And he said, "Do you mean you can feel it?" And he kept on doing it. But for him, of course, it was a shock to the system because he's so used to this mundane task of coming to just brush my foot and walk away with reporting. So after a few days, I started to take my first step again. And obviously, it was a long, there was a trial period because you had to learn everything. You had to learn this. Literally, you learn how to do everything for yourself again. But I do, and today I walk. Today I'm a mother. Today I'm not saying medicine is not good, but I've defied it. So I did that. They're here. It was all within me, and it started with that I had to recognize that what is outside of me is actually outside of me. So those are the three gifts, and I say every one of us has them. Before we throw them, we need to just take cognizance of what they really supposed to be.
Do you think that you had to experience what you experienced and had to go through what you went through to have this mindset today?
Definitely. I actually had someone one day ask me and say to me, why do I still openly speak about the rebelliousness of me? And I said to them that that's not something that I find negative about me. I needed to be in those phases that I was in, regardless of how anyone else might have seen or appear, how it appeared to somebody else. I needed to go through whatever I went through. And even if it was something bad, whether it was something as difficult as being paralyzed for that little while, no matter what it was that I had endured, whether it was a heartache or a pain, whatever it was, I embrace it now because each of those were categorically necessary for me to be able to be who I am today and to be able to give off what I give off to people for them to learn and take lessons from me. Because honestly speaking, Steph, when we go out, and you do this too, when we go out and we talk to people, we've been to seminars, we go to we go to workshops, and it's very awesome when they stand in front of us and they tell us these are the do's and these are the don'ts and this is what you should do and what you shouldn't do. That's good. But human nature is such that I grasp a concept more if I have some humaneness attached to it, if there's a storyline attached to it. And sometimes I think all of us have to go through it. I believe I have to go through all of these things because that's going to be my storyline. That's going to be my humaneness. And so I embrace and I speak of the rebelliousness and I speak of my growth and I speak of what I developed in me because it's something I embrace and I love because that's who I was. That's who taught me to become who I am today. And that's going to also lead me to become even better tomorrow. So yes, those were definitely necessary steps for me to be able to be who I am now.
But see, I mean, I could just think back when I could think back when you were in that hospital bed,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and you're evidently feeling down,
Mm-hmm.
probably have no motivation, no
Yeah.
inspiration. You have this phone call from your spiritual guide, and it
Yeah.
seems to sort of like kickstart your
The
mental.
person.
Yeah, but what do we tell someone in a similar situation who doesn't have the fortune of having a spiritual guide who can maybe start off the kickstart? What would you say to them? Because obviously at that time you must have been in a very low mood at
Yes.
that time when initially.
It was.
What was
It
it?
was.
What was the catalyst?
I think. I think. If ever there was a low time, it would have been that one because it almost felt like the world had closed in, and there's no hope. There's no sense of faith. There's no hope. There's no. You don't feel love for yourself, and you obviously feel like you're burdening everybody else, and that everything about you is just an all-time zero. So as much as yes, okay, the story for me comes because the words came from a spiritual guide, but remember, it's the words themselves that triggered it, and it's words that we use every day, Saf, that make the difference for us in what we do as life coaches or as therapists or whatever that we do. It's words that we're using to actually get messages across. We look at our phones, we get a message from somewhere, and it's words that's being used. So it's not so much as the fact that there's the spiritual guide that gave me the words. If there's somebody who's lying there who's in a similar position, or is somebody who's listening to us right now in a similar position, but not necessarily crippled, it's just your mind or mentality that's crippled, take the words from us. That is still outside of you, and you can still take control of you. Ask yourself, what can I do for me right now? What do I want to change for me right now? Because I still can. Medically, sometimes, yes, something might be at a disastrous point where there might not be a back, but you can still grow you in your mental capacity to have the sort of happiness that can reign from I'm embracing my situation the way it is. So, your spiritual self and your spiritual guide, yes, is there. But if you don't have that, remember it's the words. And I link the words and whatever I'm talking about in terms of the words and messaging to what we know in empowerment as self talk. We have that. My low state of mind and lying in that bed when I was like that, I was that low because I had myself talking to myself all the time. And it was me compounding the negativity one on top of the other. Every time something would slightly be a positive, I would negate that. I would be the one to actually go there and say, you know what, don't even bother about that, Mehreen, it's not going to work. So I would actually self talk myself into the low. And I'm saying that self talk can change. We can reframe the self talk, reframe what you're saying to yourself negatively into something that can become positive. That hint from my spiritual guide is what actually did that. That is
Mm.
what the words were about. So it's all about the messages that we look for and how we interpret them to make that difference for us.
I'm a strong believer, and I'm sure you are as well. To look at life as a two-sided perception.
Yeah.
Look at the positive, but also look at the drawbacks of a positive, and look at the negative, and look at the benefits of a negative, and bring them to an equilibrium. I think that's the only way we can be inspired and fulfilled. And I truly believe that too many people are caught up in the one-sided fantasy, which can be quite dangerous. And I think that's what you've more or less said whilst you're laying in that hospital bed. So, okay, so you come through all that. What a soldier! What a fighter!
Thank you.
But it's not only your will that's got you through, but as you said, mentally, it was all up here. It was
Yeah.
against all the odds, if you like. Um, you may have heard things like, "Well, that's it, paralyzed for life. Definitely won't be able to walk again. Might be able to, but very slow." You know, you probably heard all these things going on. Very unlikely, and all of a sudden you beat the odds. Okay,
Yeah.
and then it's like you get a new lease of life. It's like
Yes.
you needed that. Not needed that, but it's like that had to serve you in some way today. And the
Yeah.
sum of the work that you do today, I mean, you are an absolute inspiration, not just to me, but to thousands of people out there. And you will be after this show as well. You talk a lot about empowerment. You talk a lot about empowering people because you have been empowered. I think that's great. I mean, how can you empower others if you haven't been empowered yourself? And you definitely have. What is your what is your take on empowerment? What is your what do you believe empowerment to be?
Empowerment for me, the first thing about empowerment, and I'd like to get this across to everybody, is empowerment is not new. Empowerment is a word that might be new for some of us, and it's now used all over the place. But empowerment has been there all our lives. If you got to look at your mom or your grandmother or even your great grandmother, they embraced the role of being an empowered woman, for example, in their homes all of the time. The fact that they would wake up in the morning and they would do what they needed to do to make sure everything got done for their kids, their grandkids, their home, their husband, get the house sorted, and still make sure everything got done before bedtime for everybody. That's a little bit of empowerment in itself. So empowerment has always been there. We just haven't recognized the worth of empowerment and that self-empowerment that we have within us all the time. And so for me, empowerment is not, it's not about power. Empowerment is about growth. That's what
Mm,
empowerment means to me. Empowerment for me is not power. It's not about you having power over others. It's not about you becoming dictatorial over others. It's all about you growing yourself. It's all about you empowering yourself. Because for me, if I can empower myself first, and if I can actually grow me, it automatically leads to my demeanor being different. When my demeanor is different, those people around me are going to obviously start to see my demeanor is different. So it has a positive catalyst effect to others to want to grow themselves. You don't want to have to stand there. And like we said just now, you can't stand there to try and empower others if you yourself are not able to empower yourself first. So for me, empowerment, it starts with growth, and it's about self-growth. And when you want to talk more about empowerment, the key to self-empowerment, to your self-growth, is being honest with yourself. Being honest with yourself and being consciously aware of yourself. Because remember, to be able to be empowered means that you're going to have to make some drastic decisions about you as a person. And only you know you. You know you best. You know whether you do A, B, and C, and whether you need to change it to X, Y, and Z. And you can come and give off to a life coach whatever you like to, but you know yourself whether you're lying about that or whether you're not. So if you want to really become empowered, the first thing you need to do is really make the pact with yourself to say, I'm going to be honest with myself to make the necessary changes about me first to benefit me. Because once it benefits me and I see and I feel the difference, then everybody else is going to see and feel the difference about me as well. Again, it comes down to the fact that it's all about you. I control me. I can deal with things with me. And once I'm able to empower myself, I'm able to then deal with other people, make decisions about them, and give off what I need to give to them in a more clearer capacity, a more clearer mind frame. Why? Because I myself have grown to understand me at a different level. So it's all about you being honest with yourself, and it's really just about your self growth.
Mehreen, thank you for that. I on two fronts. I just had a tear.
Oh, why? I'm sorry.
But a tear of gratitude in one way, with what you said, but also, and this is obviously I'm saying this, this is live, but um, I I just saw my sister in you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that a good? I'm sorry. Yes, thank you for saying that.
I've never seen my birth family in my life. I was adopted from birth, um, and I just saw my sis. I just saw you as my sister. There's something similar about us, and I don't know what it is. So I just experienced a tear of gratitude. So I just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you, Saf. Thank you very
So
much.
I might need a bit of time to compose myself, but um,
No, no.
yeah, empowerment is all about growth. It's not about, you're right. It's not about dictatorship. It's not about being powerful. It's not about. It's as Spider-Man said, with great power comes responsibility, and I think we
Yes,
take the responsibility side of things where it's. I think you and I, where we are similar, that we try and be the voice for the voiceless. We try and be heard for the people who are unheard. We're advocates for so many things.
yes.
I think at the end of the day, we're advocates. We're in the fight, and we're in the fight to fight against injustice in all ways. And you do so many wonderful things with so many different NGOs. Uh, Firstly, can you talk about the NGOs that you're an ambassador of, that you represent, and the work you do with these NGOs, and what kind of work the NGOs do? I think it's important we get to that because we've spoken about and I don't like saying rock bottom, but we've spoken about you when you were just done. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
because I've had 120 rock bottoms, but there came a point when I was just done. You were
yeah.
done. You were
Yes,
done, and you survived being done. So you're a survivor. And
yeah,
we've talked about how you got through that mentally. We talked about the empowering side of things. And one of the things that you do is you work for non-profit, non-government organizations that make a difference in people's lives. And you are part of these institutions, these wonderful organizations. So please tell me a bit about the organizations that you work for and what your role is in an ambassador role.
Okay, so in terms of the NGO Helping Hand Social Security, that's co-founded between my husband and I, and that was done purely because it, there's a lot of work that needs to be done for community building. There's a lot of work that needs to be done all around, whether it's not just for adults but for children as well. But I've taken the reign of that in terms of what is required and how. So what I do with that, for example, is if I have to look back to the past couple of months, we knew that we were hit with lockdown, we were hit with the COVID-19 issues, and beyond the pandemic of the virus itself, we obviously had the pandemic, and we still have it, the pandemic of poverty, and we have the pandemic of financial issues. We have the pandemic of hunger, and that pandemic of hunger is still rife. And
Mm.
so throughout lockdown, we call ourselves frontliners too, because with volunteers like me, we were going out onto the field. We were going and doing helping at different locations. We were meeting different people, and I had really the amazing sponsors and donors who came to the party, like Etuгeni Outreach and Caring Sisters Network and IMA and so forth here in South Africa, and they were really, really awesome because they would come to, because they know, you're going out and you're actually doing this kind of stuff, they would actually supply you what you needed. And I would then take what I needed and I'd go. But what would happen, and I give you an example, and this will kind of give you a quick idea instead of me telling you, A, B, and C. I give you an example of a day when I went into a location here. And I went in there to do a feeding. It was a hot meal feeding. So we would actually give a hot meal to everyone that was there. And there was obviously a need for you to have your mask on, and there were all these protocols to follow. So you had to have the social distancing as you waited to get provided your meal, stuff like that. And there was a little girl who was there, and she came up to me to fetch her meal, but she didn't have a mask on. So I paused what I was doing and I said to her, "Sweetie, you need to put a mask on." And she says, "I don't have one." So I went to the van and I took out one and I came and I gave it to her. So I see she's just, she just held it in her hand. So I said, "You need to put the mask on." And she said, "I don't know how." So I stopped and I looked above her, and because I have a tendency when I talk to kids, I like to go to their level to talk to them. So I stood up and I looked above her, and I'm looking at this crowd of people, and I'm seeing majority of them don't have masks, and I'm seeing so many of them are not socially distancing, even though we've asked them to. They're just talking to each other anyway. And this, it just came to me that, okay, you know what? There's something else happening here other than them needing your food. So I helped her. She put on the mask and I taught her how to put it on. And I said to her, this is how you're going to have to do this every day now. And I'm going to give you extras to take home to your family. And she said to me, she calls me Miss M, the angel now, because if I go to that location every time, she's always there to just say hello. So she says Miss M. And she calls me an angel. And I said, "Why do you do that?" And she says, "Because my dad said to me before he went to work that if I pray hard enough, the angel will bring me some food." So in her mind, this was the person as an angel who brought the food. But be that as it may, and I walked towards the crowd a little bit and I started to talk. I realized that beside me going there to do a feeding scheme, I had to end up doing an awareness campaign and start to teach people about the usage of a mask. Half of them didn't even have any. And then you talk to others who had just lost their jobs. And I had somebody else who was sitting in a corner. This is the same day. This was a teenage boy sitting in the corner, but scared to come forth to fetch his food. So I had someone go to him and give it to him, and then he just started to cry. So I left them to do what they were doing because I had amazing volunteers there as well. And I walked there and obviously keeping a distance from him. I asked, "Why are you crying? Is it because you don't have a mask? Here's the mask. Here's the meal. You're welcome to eat it here, and I'll give you, I'll give you more to take home." And he said, no, he was about to give up. He was about to give up on everything because he's so tired. This is in one day, sir. And I said, "Well, why? What's wrong?" And he says, no, his father had just lost his job the day before because the company his father had worked for had closed down because of lockdown. And so there's no income. And his mom's not well. So his mom is not able to now take the taxi to go to hospital to fetch her medication. And there's just too much of stress and tension at home between him and his siblings because there's just, there's nothing there. There's nothing happening. And they also don't have the food. So it became too much. And he was walking up, but he was walking to actually go and do something to himself. And he saw the crowd of people when the van came and he decided to stop there and he took the food. And I teared at that point and I couldn't embrace the boy because obviously, you can't hug them. And my heart reached out to him. And at that point, I thought to myself, how many other kids are there in the world that are going through something similar because they just don't know how to cope anymore? So literally through the NGOs, I'm doing all of these different things. So throughout everything, we do feeding schemes, we do hamper drives, we do blanket drives, we do clothing drives. I do GBV matches, I do domestic violence matches. I do counseling sessions, especially for women and children. And lots of my work is done because of community building. And I really think that if we can make the difference to one family, we can make a difference to a community. And by making that difference to a community, you can make a difference to the whole of society. And that society will build a nation. So it starts with just one. And that's what my aim is to keep going with in terms of the NGOs. Right now, we're hitting an all-time low in terms of resources, but the mental health capacity still requires a lot from us to try and boost them up to keep going. There's a hell of a lot of psychosocial issues that are happening at the moment. So I'm involved in a lot of different programs that I've developed, which will help to boost the mental capacity of our children, and especially our women and people who've lost jobs out there. In terms of GBV matters, we reached a lot of issues that came up throughout the past couple of months, and I'm currently trying to put together a program that's not just to help the victim and the child. And I'll tell you quickly why. It's because The norm is to, we all associate GBV with women and children. And then we go out and we take these women and children and we remove them and we put them into safety houses for like a day or two. And then we'd actually help them with the legal processes too. And then only to find 2 or 3 days later, these same women go back to the same place, to the same person. And this is not to take away that GBV is now also about men. This is just an example that I'm giving you. And when we go to the women and we ask them, well, why are you going back there? We get told, well, who's going to provide for us? So for me, the program that I'm busy with now is we're taking them away from them. What are we giving them? When we want to take away from somebody, we need to replace or help them fill the gap. And that's why we're not having the decrease in the violence issues that we're having. We're not having the decrease in the abuse because we're taking away, but we're helping them for the 2 or 3 days, and then we're pushing them back into a space where they don't know what to do with themselves anymore. The other thing I'm dealing with, and I want to work on this a little bit more. It's not implemented yet. It's still working itself out. Is why do we have to not work with the abuser as well? Surely every person in our community and society to try and help them. So as much as we're taking away the victim who was abused, let's also try and help the abuser. Maybe there's something about the person who's abusing people that can be helped. And we don't need to really disrupt this and make this family dysfunctional. We can actually maybe help it to function even better if we just take the time to find out why and what's really the source of the issue. So, I think we need to look at the violence issues a bit more holistically as opposed to just victim orientated. So the other thing that came up with these is that many men have now come forward to say they're also victims of GBV. And it's not just women. So we have to be careful now that we're not just really stigmatizing a GBV victim to be just a female. So when I talk now, that's why I say we need to look at who the abuser is, not just who the men are, because it's not just about men. Whoever is an abuser can also get help. Whoever is the victim also needs help. But remember, how we help them doesn't need to be temporarily. We need to help them mentally for their long-term journey. They don't need a quick fix to be okay for 2 or 3 days. They need a fix to be able to go through this for every single day going forward. Those children are coming out. We're taking them out of something that was very traumatic. What are we doing with them for the 2 or 3 days in a safety house to make sure they go back there? They go back there because that's the bond that they have with the someone. Do we take them away and throw away the someone, or do we try and really help this family unit in itself? So a lot of people might shoot me down for that, but that's just where I'm at mentally for myself at the moment. It's not a program I'm implemented yet, but it's what I'm thinking that I would like to actually do. So with the NGOs, there's a lot that I'm covering, and that's kind of what was seen by the international base as well. So a couple of women that are overseas at the moment took 2 of my programs, and they work with it there. And it's working quite well. So that's where the recognition for the, you mentioned the ambassador thing, that's where that came in. So I'm grateful for that. Yeah.
That's amazing. I saw it and I was very proud to know someone who deserves so much. And when you talk about this program, I too are working towards a similar program where we help stop exploitation in some way, and it can be from drug trafficking, from honor killing, from human trafficking, and obviously my background is drugs and addiction, to help them with that. But rather than taking them away from the situation and putting them up in one place, which is not enough, but helping to empower them, helping to give them a purpose in life, a reason to live, a reason to wake up. And we're talking employability, we're talking education, we're talking support in all ways, psychosocial interventions, we're talking the whole package. Because it's all great getting a homeless person off the street and housing them, but that's it.
Exactly.
You haven't sorted the problem out.
Yes.
You're just taking it from the outside of the street and put it inside a home, which is slightly warmer.
Exactly.
So
But that doesn't help.
Totally...
that's where the skills development also comes in. We really need to enhance skill development processes across the board, because every single person, I think, has got some form of skill. And they can be self-sustained at some point. We just need to really take the effort to be able to give them what they need to help themselves.
And I totally feel where you're coming from. I was wondering, what's your what's your take on this situation that we've been experiencing for the last 8 months or whatever, the coronavirus and COVID-19 as a whole? What's your understanding of that? What's your take on that?
If you're asking me holistically about the virus itself, it's there. And I've taken a stance of where, and I teach this about the virus to everybody. The virus is outside, it's there. I can't control the virus, but I can control me. So I can control me, I can control my reaction to the virus, and I can control how I think about the virus. So that's the broader prospect of what I think about the virus in itself. But when it comes to the actual management of the virus, according to people at the ground level, another webinar earlier on today about that. And one of the things that we found, and I found from being on the ground level, remember, I'm talking about being me in a boardroom capacity where we actually make the policy. So the policy making process happens there. So my mobility is there. But I'm also at the ground where I'm wanting to see that implemented on the ground level so that it works. I'm not seeing it working. So yes, we have the rules and the regulations that are put in there, the policies are put in there, everything is set out there because it has to be said, and this has to get done. We need this and we need that, and this is going to work. Yes, fantastic. That's the best approach. But what are we doing to implement it so that we actually make the people comply? And when I go back to that example that I gave you earlier about the little girl that I helped when I went to do the feeding. We said, authorities had said, you need to make sure you have a mask on. Have we taken the stance and made sure that everybody has a mask? I mean, we know that within a week we're going to have lockdown and it's going to be full on. I mean, you're not going to be going anywhere, but if you do have to go to get an essential, you need a mask. Did we make sure that every single household and every person in the rural area and the location had a mask? Did we send any of our people, deploy them to go to these places to actually do some awareness campaigns with people who don't have the liberty of the internet and the TV to be able to learn these things that we're learning from? So people on the ground were not getting the messages properly, and they were not adhering to anything, not because they were being negligent, because they just didn't have the resource to do it. That led to a lot of psychological issues. I lost quite a lot of people to the virus in itself. But I think one thing that stands out for me was a 13-year-old little boy that I was called in to help, who were suicidal when schools just opened here in South Africa. And when schools first opened here in South Africa, I think in that first 2 weeks, we lost a lot of teachers. And we even lost quite a few of our students. So this little boy, his parents called me, and I then did a video call to speak to him, and he didn't want to because somebody would hear him if it's on a video. So I made an arrangement to talk to him. And this is 13-year-old Saf. So you deal with kids also. So this is a 13-year-old little boy who went back to school after being, locked up for months and cooped up for months. So he's looking forward to going to school, and he's looking forward to engaging with his friend. And even though he can't hug his friend and be close to his friend, there's social distancing at school. But the point is, he's still able to communicate with his friend in person and is there. And his biggest thing was that he could see his favorite teacher. His teacher was like his all. His best mate was his teacher. And so he goes to school, and 2 weeks into school, his friend gets sick, so his friend doesn't come in. This was awareness day. So the friend doesn't come to school on awareness day, and the Friday, the friend doesn't come in either. And on the Saturday, his mom gets a message to say that the friend had passed on. So when he asked why, they told him that his friend had had an asthma attack, and his friend had passed away from the virus. So obviously everyone then had to go and do tests because the child was at the school and stuff like that. The protocols were followed. 2 weeks after losing that friend, his favorite teacher, wasn't at work on a Tuesday. And by the Thursday, he found out that she was in hospital and tested positive. And by the following Tuesday, that teacher of his had passed on. And this is a little boy, a 13-year-old mind, 13-year-old heart, who's in a span of 4 weeks lost his best friend to something that is unknown, to his guardian, an angel for him was his teacher. She was his outlet, because apparently she would know everything about him and guide him every day and how to think and what to do, because home life was not the perfect for him. He'd lost her to this unknown. And there were lots of issues at home because his dad was now unemployed, and there was abuse happening at the house now because there was too much frustration between everybody. And he himself just felt, I can't do this. And if the virus is going to be here, I'd rather just not be here either. I don't want to face it anymore. This is one household. This is one little boy, but with all of these social issues and psychological issues in one space. How many homes globally went through the similar fact? And how many endured and came through it positively now? So I, for example, sit and I say, well, we hit level 1 at the moment here in South Africa. People here are complacent. Half of them are not even wearing a mask anymore. They feel that if you're on level 1, there is no need for a mask, which is scary, because that's not what's supposed to happen. But those psychological issues that transpires throughout lockdown, the anxiety, the desperation, the fear factors, everything that happened psychologically throughout lockdown culminated in today, us being who we are today, where even if somebody sneezes in front of you in a mall or in a shop, it doesn't, there's no bless you that comes out of you anymore. There's a, oh gosh, and you walk away. So that mentality is there to stay. And I'm saying with all the psychological issues that have happened, it's obviously not going to just disappear. And I have an issue when we have to have people come to say, well, you need to build a new sense of normalcy. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in that, because what is normalcy? Normalcy is something that stems from a norm. What is a norm? A norm is something that we're used to doing that works for us, and we're happy to do it. Nobody knows what a norm is to say that that's their new norm. We need to first develop a new, and we need to develop it into being a norm. There is no new normalcy. Everyone is still trying to adjust. And I think our children really were the biggest frontliners, because they had to just adapt to whatever had to be given to them every day. You either do this or you do that, or you just conform with somebody's mood swing at home. Kids just have to take it. So the virus has had more than just the pandemic of the virus as being a biological disaster for everybody. I think the virus has really impacted on people in many, many ways. And I say to everyone right now who's even listening to us now, if you have to think of 2020, I think no one should ever think of 2020 as a disaster. I think everyone needs to think of 2020 as a blessing somewhat, because 2020 reduced us to being, and I say reduced because we put ourselves up there. It's reduced us to being humble. It's reduced us and brought us back down to where we need to realize what exactly is life supposed to be worth about. What exactly is it? Every one of us is fighting now for the same. We all wanting the love. We all wanting the compassion. We all wanting to feel that we're okay. And that is where this virus has got some positive to it, without the pun intended on the positive. There's a lot more learning to be done. I think we can't really rely on stats, to be quite honest. I think people right now, for me, and I've met quite a few, are of the mentality that they're scared. They will not actually divulge that they're sick or want to go for a test. Why? Because they fear that isolation. They fear that if something happens to them and they pass away, their family's not gonna even be able to do what they're supposed to do for them. So they just rather no. It's a selfish way to think, but how do you try and curb that? So right now we have majority psychological issues that are impacting social issues, and then you have the psychosocial issues that are not being dealt with much at all. And then we have the new pandemics of the poverty and the hunger, which are taking much more precedence over the actual pandemic of the virus. So yeah, that's a lot. There's a lot more I could go on and on about about the virus, but that's just the crux of what I feel based on the fact that I'm on so many of these platforms for the virus itself here in South Africa.
I felt it was important to ask you and take your take on it as well, and thank you for that. And it's oh God, the situation has been 2020 has been it's been unlike any other year that I can remember. But I think for people like yourself and for me, I think this is where we come in our element, if you like. This is where we can be of service to as many people who need our service, because this is what we do. And the work that you and I are both involved in, especially you in South Africa, where a lot of your work is hands-on as much as you can be in these times, I think it's crucial for people like you to be here to help and to support these challenges that we're experiencing. And my hat's off to you for sure. Just before we close up, I want you to mention about the M.E.A company. I mentioned it at the beginning. A bit about your workshops and your webinars that you do. Just very, very briefly, what is the M.E.A company? And tell me a bit about your workshops and webinars.
MEA, as you said, is MEA. M stands for motivate, and E for empower, A for advance. And that's exactly what I do through them. I will do an assessment, and then if it's personal one-on-one, it's from the assessment we then decide how we're going to take it forward. But basically, when it comes to workshops and seminars or kiddies, the youth development program, stuff like that, a lot of it is about me giving you tools, because I believe, Saf, that when you have to come to me, I've been to them. When we go to these workshops, it's amazing the vibe that you get at an empowerment workshop. I mean, you really feel all worked up, and you feel that I can do this, and you have this real fantastic vibe at the workshop itself. The crux for me is, once I leave the workshop, does the vibe stay with me, and am I taking something with me to keep the vibe going? So that's where I started to feel that I need to rather make sure that when I do my workshop, when I sit with you to do an empowerment exercise, when I motivate you and try to empower you and try to grow you, I'm giving you tools. And these tools are tools that you can use for yourself, where you don't need Mehreen anymore. You don't need Mia anymore. You actually just need you, and you need tools. What I do is I give you these tools based on you as your persona and our awareness and assessments and stuff that we do together. And you then use and implement these tools for the betterment of you first. Because like I said, it's all about you growing yourself first. If you are somebody who's going to come to try and feel, I need to be empowered because I need to be empowered for so and so, or for this other reason, or for somebody to actually acknowledge me even more, that's not going to work. And don't come to me for that. That for me, I need to help you to better you. I need to make you find your authentic being. I need to make you grow yourself for the best version of yourself. And for that, you need to be able to really take some hectic decisions about who you are, what you are, and where you need to be. And if you're not going to be able to be honest with you to help me to be honest about how I need to help you, then we're going to kind of waste each other's time. So you need to be able to really know that you have to have an awareness conscience of yourself for a couple of days, a couple of weeks on end. And the bonus of it is, at the end of the day, you're going to be somebody who's going to be empowered for you. You're going to be clearer in your thought patterns. You're going to be clearer in how you live. You're going to be clearer in how you react to things. What it means is basically, I'm going to take control of me. That's not going to be disrespectful to anybody. That doesn't mean I'm going to be disrespectful to my spouse. I'm not going to look after my kids. I'm not going to take my duties and my responsibility seriously. No, actually, it's the opposite. If I become an empowered soul and I grow myself to the best version of me, I can encompass each of my roles to the better version of what they're supposed to be too. So if I'm a wife and I'm a mother and I'm a business person and I'm a lecturer, above everything else, when I'm empowered to be the best version of me, then each of those roles will see the best version of me in them. But at the end of the day, when I close off for the night, I'm still remaining true to who I am. And that's what empowerment with MEA is going to have to teach you and get you to be.
Wow, you just empowered me. You just inspired me. I want to know more. I want some of these tools, but and I'm sure. So if people want to find you, they can. The website's below, the
Yeah.
meacompany.co.za. Just to it's you've inspired me so much, and I just feel blessed that our paths are crossed. I really do. And what would you like to say a few words in terms of finishing our show, our discussion, our service together tonight, or today, wherever anyone's watching around the world? What parting words would you like to say to close off our discussion?
I think there's two things. One is a quote that I use because it's mine, and that is, remember that the power to empower lies within the self. The power to empower lies within the self, and that just teaches you that everything stems from you, inside of you. When you appreciate that about you, then things would really start to change for you. But the second thing is, Saf, there's a quote, and even though it's about women, I think it applies across the board. But the quote goes like, a strong woman knows that in her journey she will find strength. A strong woman knows that in her journey she will find strength. But a woman of strength knows that in her journey she will become strong. I believe each one of us, especially us women, can be the woman of strength. So it's fantastic to be able to go your journey and be strong. But it's even better if the strength of you is what gains more strength throughout your journey. So be the woman of strength first. And when I say woman of strength, I say it to women, yes, but I think that applies to everybody. Remember that it's in your journey you can actually find the growth, and that's where you need to find you. That's important.
Beautiful. Be the person of strength. There's another way we could say it. But well, thank you very much. I've all different emotions have gone through me today. One, I get the tear of gratitude with what you say and the work you do and the stories that you said. Two, I get the tear of gratitude looking at you as my real sister, because I've never seen one, never had one that I've known of. And three, I get a tear of gratitude of your wisdom, of your take on the virus, of your take on empowerment, of your take on a holistic approach on the perpetrator and the victim, and the victim, the perpetrator, and both can be survivors of that, which is beautiful. I mean, when I worked in the prison service, that's probably one of the reasons why I worked there, is to help offenders and to try and help them grow as individuals, so when they do get released, they don't repeat the same, because it's all good being in a safe environment. It's all good being in a workshop. It's all good being in a rehabilitation facility. It's all good being in prison, because you're in a safe little environment there. But what happens when you go out?
Exactly.
Yeah, what is out there? What is the aftercare? What is the support there that can keep you on that path? And I think you do that, and I think you aim to do that, and I think I wish you all the blessings to do that. You're a wonderful, wonderful human being. You're an amazing soul, and I'm just so happy that I've had a chance to be with you again live. And I no doubt this won't be the last time. I have things in my mind which I think we can work together in communion as a collective to help as many people as we possibly can. Whether you're in South Africa or I'm in the UK, it doesn't matter. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Saf, and thank you to everyone who's watching, and thank you for the platform. And look forward to the next one.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Well, this has been Saf Surgery from Spirituality Gone Wild in collaboration with unified.org. Whew, what a show, man. I mean, I always think I have shows. I don't think the next show can get much better than the other one, and this one's just taking it to a different level. And they're all great levels, but this level is a level of endearment, the level of empowerment, the level of humility, the level of I've gone through so many emotions in this show. Thank God I wear these, that you couldn't see what I was feeling. And it's all because when I have guests like Mehreen on, who has been on today, she's inspired me. And when someone inspires someone, it's a good thing. But also we've had to look at the negatives and the benefits of the negatives and the inspirational positives and the drawbacks of the positives, and we look at both sides because too many people need a one-sided perception, and Mehreen is definitely not one of them, because you need to go through something to show something, and that's what she's been doing, and that's what we do, and that's why we work together. So thank you very much. This has been Saf Surgery, Spirituality Gone Wild. Next week I have some news to disclose. I was going to do it this week, but I can't do it just yet. So next week, watch this space, because I have some big breaking news of something that I'm involved with on a bigger platform, on a global platform, on a platform like no other, to give my message of hope to as many people as possible and to be of service. And it's just watch this space. So thank you very much. This has been Saf Surgery. I'm Saf. Till the next time. Ciao.